Hello and welcome everyone to today's podcast brought to you by the British Veterinary Nursing Association. Today we are joined by Lyndsay, the current BVNA president, as she discusses what she's been up to during March, which has been an incredibly busy month. She's been at the BVNA council meetings, the House of Commons, BSAVA, Congress and much more. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and please do tune in to other episodes. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for today's podcast where we're joined by Lyndsay, current BVNA president, where she's going to give us a nice update about what she's been up to during March, which has been an incredibly busy month. So I think what we'll do is we'll start with the start of March, which was the council meetings, wasn't it? Is that right, Lyndsay?
Yes, thank you, Kim. So I'm going to introduce Kim because this is the first time that you've chaired the podcast.
Oh, yes. Hi, everyone.
So hopefully most of you will know Kim because Kim has been in and out of BVNA for years as a regional rep before joining council. But Kim is currently our honorary secretary and one of our officers of BVNA. So it's a great support to me in my role. I thought it was important to introduce you because you are fabulous.
Thank you.
So what have we been up to? So we had the business planning meeting, which was the beginning of March, and that's an opportunity for us as council members to all come together and look at sort of the progress of the BVNA in the last 12 months, what we've done okay or well, and look at things that we could improve upon. We kind of changed how we did it this year because previously it's been a fairly similar format for years. And for those of us that have been on council for a while, it's quite predictable. And sort of to get people more engaged, we felt it would be beneficial to tweak that slightly. And that actually came from the staff team. As you can imagine, we've got Angie and Lisa who've been on council for a very long time. So they've been in very many business planning meetings.
Yeah, very experienced.
So felt that actually it would be beneficial to do it slightly differently. So we did our usual updates that we go through, Hughes' financial update that he gave us. We looked at the budget, which we'd already approved.
Yeah.
We talked in there about sort of changing how our council meetings run per year, because we feel it would be beneficial to move our business planning meeting towards the end of the year and produce our budget at the beginning of the year. Kind of feel that March is a long way off from reviewing the previous year's budget and a long way ahead of approving the next year's budget. So all sort of intricacies like that. We talked about things that we wanted to work on. We talked a lot about protect the title and what we could do as a council team, to support that, and how we can engage our members also to get involved with that as well. So there's quite a lot. That's a very whistle-stop tour of what we did on that day. We all went out for a meal afterwards, which was lovely. It was really nice food.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was great to do that. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because I don't know whether people realise, but a lot of our council meetings now are on Zoom to make it more accessible for people, but also bearing in mind that we have our Investors in the Environment Bronze Award. I'm pretty sure we've got silver now as well.
Silver, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we, obviously need to bear that in mind when we're thinking about travelling from all over the country, because we've got council members that live in the far south of England, and we've got council members that live fairly north in Scotland. So bringing everyone together obviously does, incur a lot of travelling as well, which we have to be mindful of. So it's really great when we can all get together, which is only sort of twice a year, 3 times a year if you include Congress, if everyone's able to go. And then on the Sunday, we had our main council, we had our subcommittee council meetings, of which we've talked about this before, but membership, learning and development officers, and then we have our main council meeting in the afternoon. So it's a fairly full-on weekend for everybody. It's a lot in one room. It's very productive, but it is quite exhausting. So yes, that's what we did. It was very productive and it was lovely to see everybody. So that was that. And then the following week, as if I hadn't seen enough of Charlotte, so Hughes, our CEO, and Charlotte is our learning and development and communications manager. We ended up at the Houses of Parliament, which is very exciting, very terrifying, I might add. But we were invited to join the BVA. They were hosting an event to talk about reviewing the Veterinary Surgeons Act, which is something that we really need to, well, we are really behind, but we need to get other people out there as well to understand obviously why. And there's very many reasons, and I know I've talked about them before, but obviously Veterinary Surgeons Act is massively outdated. It's from 1966. I know there's been a few amendments along the way, but the main act is ridiculously old and not fit for purpose anymore. And there's very many reasons obviously that we need to review this, but from a nursing perspective, it will allow us to bring that element of it up to date as to what nurses can do, what nurses should be doing, and also protecting the title comes in with that as well, as if we don't talk about that enough. But it's so important. It's so important to us as nurses, but also it's hugely important to clients for animal welfare. And I think that's the biggest thing. We can say as a membership organisation representing nurses, it's really important to us as individual nurses to be recognised and to have that skill set clearly laid out there for people to understand. But the members of the public need to understand what that means to them and why that matters to them. And that's where the animal welfare side of it comes from. And not to go off on her, because I could, as you know, for ages, get up the soapbox and talk about it. But there's very many elements to it that we need to be mindful of. And when we talk about those people in practice who maybe refer to themselves as veterinary nurses or are referred to as veterinary nurses by their colleagues, it might be it might not be them that's referring to themselves as that. It might be the job title that they have been given that they have no choice over. So we have to be really careful as nurses when we get frustrated about that point, because that did come up in our survey that quite a lot of people, I think it was like 48% of people who filled in that survey work with somebody who refers themselves as a veterinary nurse or is known as a veterinary nurse. So we're really conscious of that as BVNA, is actually those people working in that setting who've either been given that title or don't really understand why they shouldn't be referred to as veterinary nurses. It's helping educate them and their employers so that they understand why that can't happen, but not to vilify those individuals, because it's their fault. They just might not understand. Anyway, get off my soapbox now. So that was really exciting. It was, we spoke to a lot of MPs. There were some lords that we spoke to, and even just networking with, because BSAVA were there, BVA obviously were there, they were hosting it. Just chatting to some of the BVA divisions as well. It was really useful. DEFRA were there. So we have been struggling to get hold of DEFRA for some time. There's been a lot of staff change. We were fortunate enough that there was somebody from DEFRA there that we could it was like a three-prong attack between myself and when we realised that DEFRA were there. So it was really, really great. And we came out of it sort of really buzzing and just thinking about what we could do next.
Definitely.
So BVA have actually been really quite supportive. We obviously have a memorandum with them, but in regards to allowing us some of their resources to help support us with this, because we're a really small staff team. We're a very, very powerhouse staff team, but still small, and they have a lot of other responsibilities that they undertake to keep BVNA running. So this is a big project, and although absolutely we can undertake this, and we are going to undertake this, it's just useful to have tips and from other people as to what we could do or what we should be doing. And we might not always use those. Obviously we've got our own ideas as well, but it is really great to have the support and that those resources there. So we actually had a meeting with BVA sort of policy team and sort of their operations team, if you like, who have obviously put together their manifesto for the Veterinary Surgeons Act reform, and just talking about what we could do, what should we do about this, and ideas and suggestions, and just having a power huddle. Really, it was really useful, so that was great. So that was that week as well. And then the following week obviously is when the 12th of March CMA news dropped. And that I was working from home on that Tuesday, so could see that unfolding in the media. I'm sure everybody else did as well. So prior to it dropping. We'd had some conversations, obviously we've been in conversations with the CMA about giving our opinion and thoughts on things already. We had an inkling that it was going to be coming that day, but we didn't know when, we didn't know what it was going to say. So that was slightly frustrating, because it would have been useful to have had that a preview, but I understand obviously why we couldn't have done. But yeah, so I was watching it unfold in the media. Obviously Malcolm Morley from BVA did a whole string of media appearances and on radio, TV. And the more I watched it, so I remember watching first thing in the morning, I think he was on BBC Breakfast, and the reporting was awful. It was just so unbalanced, one-sided. They'd already made their opinion based on the snapshot of information that they had had. And I watched Malcolm on that and actually thought he did a really good job to remind them that these are individuals at the end of the day. And I can't remember whether he gave the stat about being one of the highest prevalence of suicide in professions, or whether it just said to be kind. I can't remember quite what, because I know he had mentioned that at different points. And it did almost make them slightly balance their you know, how they talked about it a little bit better, but it still wasn't brilliant. And we recognized that as nurses there will be a lot of questions, a lot of things perhaps maybe that people didn't necessarily understand, and we really wanted to be able to do something to provide people an outlet or to be able to ask questions. So we actually Charlotte Bullard and myself contacted her about whether we could do something like a Q&A session or something like that. We couldn't do it for that evening because we wouldn't have had enough time, but we felt it was important to do it as soon as possible. So we managed to organise that for the Wednesday evening, and Joe Oakton very kindly was available to obviously be on that with me. I can't remember how many people attended in the end, and I know that
there was quite a few. There was a lot. There was a lot of us. And it was because it was really important. So I feel like you were joined by a lot of support there.
And I think there were people that had signed up for it that couldn't attend, that maybe have watched it back afterwards.
Watched it back.
But it was, I felt it was really useful. I think one of the things that we really, and I think there's a piece that's come out in VN Times this week about it actually, is being really mindful that this is not necessarily a negative thing. It's probably something, I mean, if you think about it in a different context and it not being about veterinary, if you felt as a consumer that you didn't have clarity on something, felt you were paying over the odds for something, didn't understand the cost makeup of something, you would be frustrated. And I kind of put myself in that setting, because I think there have been things before. This is completely, I'm going off on a different tangent now. My husband is the kind of person who someone will tell him what something is and he just pays for it. Or he'll tell me, we had an issue with our heating system. So he told me, this is what we needed to have done. We needed to have the system flushed. We needed a new pump here. So it was going to happen. And I was like, well, how much is that going to cost? And he was like, oh, I don't know. So he doesn't, he's just, I know there's a real mix of people out there, but for me, and I know that we've done insights training as BVNA, I'm a very detailed person. I need to have all the information. I need to know how much that's going to cost, how long it's going to take. Have we got a variety of different quotes? It probably doesn't help my role in practice as well, sort of that encompasses that kind of stuff as well. So I kind of look at it a little bit like that, in, you know, I need that detail, I need that information, and I need to understand. And if I don't understand, I become frustrated. So I don't blame those people that have raised this or responded. I did say in the podcast, in the webinar, that we have to take that in context, which I think obviously the VN Times have quoted that in their article. But you know, we're talking at this point about 15 million pet owning households in the UK, and when you look and think, well, 46,000 people, 45,000 people filled in that survey who are members of the public, it's possible that they're disgruntled. And you know, potentially they've got right to be disgruntled if they feel like they've not had clear communication. Absolutely fine. But there's elements of this CMA review that really are important for us in, you know, when we're talking about, I know it's been talked about a lot, but the pharmaceutical costs, like that's a big issue for us because we can't get it cheaper anywhere else. And I'm actually glad that that is out there now, because the amount of complaints that my client care team will have in practice about that particular element. And all they say is we can't get it cheaper, which is true. And now that's been widely reported. So that's a real benefit. Obviously, talking about nurses, what we do, looking at what people do in practice, transparency. I know I use that word, transparency of what, because I think there'll be a lot of people working in practice, vets, nurses, loads of people who maybe don't understand the fee pricing. They don't understand how much it costs to run a practice. And like I said in that webinar, there's differences of whose responsibility that is. You know, obviously as the business owners or people running the practices, we need to be clear, but as individuals working in that practice, we need to have access to that information, and if it's given to us, make sure that we understand it. So I've gone off again now, but it's brilliant for very many reasons, and I think we need to perceive it as that. The negative side of it has come from that media glare and how they've reported it, but you know, I think equally for consumers, for our clients, and for us working in that industry, it's going to be a real benefit to us. And we just need the media to maybe understand that we, as those working in practice, actually, you know, we embrace this. You know, we're all there. There's no need to be negative towards vets individually. We're happy, and this is what we want as well. So there was that, obviously, sorry. And then from that, obviously, I think that webinar was seen by other people. And so then I was contacted by Closer Still Media, who run like the vet show, so London Vet Show, BVNA Live, they kind of do the event organising side of stuff. So with Vet Times, they were looking at doing something similar, but with obviously representatives from other areas. So they'd asked myself, Sue Patterson from the RCVS, Malcolm Morley from BVA, Kate Higgins, who is a SPIVS board member, but also is an independent practice owner. And unfortunately, understandably, we did, I think, corporates were approached but were unable to attend. It was quite a short time period. It's a shame, because it would have been really good, because it was a real positive, I think, webinar. So that was the following week. That was on the 19th of March. And yeah, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified, because I think I'd been asked all about it on the Friday, and then we were due to have a sort of like a briefing on the Tuesday, and I ended up not being able to attend the briefing because I was at work. So I tried to switch it in my diary, and then something had happened and I couldn't go, and I tried to get on for the last bit of it, and I was unable to make it. So I then contacted them, and it was fine. They gave me an overview, but we ended up meeting, I think the webinar was 7 till 8:30, which is really long. It was really long when you're one of the panelists. And we ended up pre-meeting at 6:30. So it was 2 hours. So it was really quite long. And it was a great thing to be part of. Like I said, I was absolutely terrified. I think because, again, as nurses, we often struggle, well, a lot of people do, but we often struggle with imposter syndrome. So I'm sat there obviously with fabulous Malcolm, brilliant Sue, and Kate, who is lovely as well. And a lot of the questions, because the rest of them were all vets, and that's not the only reason, but I think probably a lot of the attendees were vets as well. So some of the questions coming through were aimed, I feel, more
at vets.
And for me, it's really important that not only like nurses, client care team, but actually the whole practice, because there's people, you know, support team members that will be affected by this as well, that it was really important that we considered everybody in this. And that's not to say that the panelists weren't considering everybody, but some of the questions coming through were obviously from vets, and that's fair enough. So yeah, it was quite tricky to sort of navigate, and also because I hadn't had a great deal of prep time, I think I like to be prepared. So it was quite terrifying, but anyway, it was good. I think it was a lot of people that watched that one. I feel like it was 400. so it was great thing to be part of, and great to have BVNA there and nurses represented. So I'm glad that I was asked to be part of it. I do feel very lucky about that.
Yeah, and I just want to say quickly that actually everyone organised something so quickly in terms of the CMA review as well. So it was really good that actually everyone got together and did something, and that you were there to represent the vet nurses along with Joe. And it was just absolutely amazing how you all did it so quickly, so that you could provide that insight to us and you could be the voice for vet nurses. So I think you did really well, to be honest, Lyndsay. So yeah, really good.
Thank you. It was really important. I think we're feeling more confident as an association that often, because we're quite small, mighty but small, and again, it's that whole imposter syndrome again, isn't it? It's like, a good friend of mine lent me a book that was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I think I've really embraced that, because inside I am terrified and I don't really think it's the right decision. You know, I can't be certain, sorry, that I'm 100% that this is the right decision, but I'm like, let's do it. We've thought about it, rather than procrastinate, which is natural to me.
Yeah.
My colleagues. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not a risk taker. I'm someone who's like, oh, I'm not sure about this. But in that situation, I felt so strongly. I think when it is something you're passionate about, and obviously nursing is something I'm very passionate about, then actually that in that situation, I was like, you know what have we got to lose? Ultimately, we put this out there and we, you know, provide an opportunity for people to ask anything that they want to ask about it. All we can do is answer those questions, and if it doesn't work and people feel that it wasn't the right thing to do, then we've tried something. So
exactly.
I think that's kind of where we came from with it. But it's not natural for me. But actually, sorry, going back to that, as in being a small but mighty association, we just need to trust our instincts a little bit more, and just go with it.
Absolutely.
Scary, but yes, that's what we did. And then the next week, do you want me to keep going?
Yes, please. What happened next?
Sorry, Kim. What happened next? So the next week, that was the next week, the 19th of March was when that CMA webinar was. And then on the 20th of March, we had, VN Futures is a collaboration with the RCVS. For those people that don't know about that, it's have a look. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's looking obviously at the future of veterinary nursing and providing resources to help with that. So one of the things we've been talking about is sessions that we have at Congress, and we've come together and we've had various different ideas. We've gone away, some things haven't worked, come back together again. So we had a meeting on the 20th of March just looking at that, and I think we're going to run, because we've run them before, like interactive sessions, so like workshops really. And so the one that we've decided that we're going to do, I think I can probably say this, Nikki might tell me off, but it's basically looking at change management and difficult conversations, which is a tricky topic to get into the time that we need to, but it's really important, and it's something that comes up. Communication tends to be either a barrier or a problem. A lot is something that we hear from nurses, so we're going to give that a whirl. And it would be great to have people there, because often the VM Futures sessions aren't as well attended. Sometimes they are, but I think the last Congress, they weren't as well attended as we would have liked. And I think it's just that people don't understand what it's about. It's just about pulling together the great skill set of the nurses on the RCVS Council and obviously BVNA, and coming together and just providing resources for people. So to help improve their nursing journey and looking into the future. So it's a really great thing to be part of. Again, I've really whistle stop that, but have a look them up, look us up, sorry, because it's a quick effort. And there's some at the moment as well, talking about that, with VM Futures, the RCVS, which we're fully supporting, are doing some roadshows about VM Futures at the moment. So have a look for that as well. There'll be something locally. I think the first one is actually in Ireland that they're starting.
Yes.
So definitely worth having a look at those. And then on the 21st of March, so I went, sorry, on the 20th of March, after that VM Futures meeting, I drove to Manchester for BSAVA. And so that was lovely. I actually got to stay in the Midlands Hotel, which was very nice. I was BSAVA put me up there, which was lovely. And so the next day, on the 21st in the morning, I had a BNMEG, which is a major employer group meeting. So that's with all the corporates. And it was our opportunity again to talk about what we are doing, what we've done, and you know, what our plans are. And you know, again, they help distribute that information to their teams. So it's really useful for us to do that, because obviously as they are, like I said, the major employers group, they have lots of people that they can reach out to. So for those people who don't know, who are nurses who don't know a great deal about the BVNA, is a brilliant opportunity for us. So that went really well. It was really lovely to be able to update them on what we were doing. So that was good. And then we had obviously our practical stand at BSAVA, which was CPR. I have to say, I am predominantly non-clinical. I'm non-clinical in my director role, and then once a month, although I haven't actually done it for a while now because of various holidays and time off, but I work in a practice close to home and just do it sort of it's like a 23-hour shift once a month. So CPR training is not something that I feel particularly confident given, because it's changed a lot since I first started training as a nurse. But I was so fortunate to have the wonderful Joy Shot, who is one of our BAs, and she was doing the session before me. So I literally went and sat there and wrote 2 pages of notes based on what she was saying. She's phenomenal. All of actually, I haven't got the list of names, and you know what I'm like at the moment with my brain remembering names. Everybody that helped on that station over those 3 days, I was just in absolute awe of. So obviously there's Nikki McLeod, Emma Foreman, Steph Worsley, and Vic folks as well, so council members, but we had some BAs helping us as well. And I'm really sorry, I feel awful because I should have had that list with me to remember names, and I'm awful at it. But again, it was just brilliant, and watching them all kind of just made me feel fairly inadequate, because they knew what they were doing. And they I mean, the groups as well. One of the groups, I took a photo. I had to stand up on a chair above. I think that Joy had at least 12 people in the booth going through CPR training with them. And there was a lot of vets actually that came along as well.
Oh, that's good.
It's something that I think there isn't, you know, that training isn't particularly in depth whilst we're training. And then obviously things have altered. So I learned a lot, which I'll be taking back to my practice. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, definitely.
So this year we didn't have a stand, whereas in previous years we've had a stand. So we just decided to do this instead, and I think it was really successful. So I suspect that might be the way that we go going forward.
Yeah, that sounds really fun as well. It sounds very interactive.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then that evening I had to scuttle off because I had the Pet Plan Awards.
Yes,
which
we talked about that in your last podcast.
Yeah, I was absolutely terrified because it was in a different venue. It was their 25th anniversary of the awards, and normally I think it might be the Clock Tower Hotel that it's been in previously. So it's all on one level, and then there's obviously the stage, which seems a lot lower. This, we were in the Albert Hall, which is like a music venue. So it's tiered, and then the stage is quite high, obviously. As I stood there looking at it, I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get up and down those steps in heels. And then as we're chatting away, waiting to go on to practice, because we had to be there at like 6 o'clock, I think it was. And it didn't finish, like the awards and dinner didn't finish till 11, so it's quite a long time that we were there.
Wow, yeah.
But we were, so it's myself, Miles Russell, who is VMG president, Carl Gorman, who is BSAVA president, Anna Judson, BVA president, and Belinda Andrew Jones was there who's the RCVS VN chair. And she was giving an award because it was to the support team. I think her award was because BVRA were unable to attend. Belinda was a judge on the vet award as well, but so for each award there was at least 2 of us judging, and then only one of us could obviously present the award. But so we were busy there chatting, talking about how, you know, look at the stage, and then up on the stage pops Claudia Winkleman having a little practice, So we weren't obviously aware that I wasn't aware that she was going to be the host because it had been kept fairly hush hush.
Yeah.
So that was lovely. She was lovely. I've got a photo with her. I refer to her as my mate Claude now. But that was such a lovely thing to be part of, especially because the nurse that won, so I obviously gave the nurse award, had like she just I think this is I love nurses. I love nurses. Just because everyone is so humble. No one, and this is not a good thing, and it is something we absolutely need to work on, but no one ever feels good enough, I think. You know, I feel we always feel like we're a little bit inferior. I don't know why, but that's how it is. And the nurse that won, Nicole Shorto, she really was so over the moon at winning. Whether she thought she was going to win or not, I don't know, but she was just like shaking when she got on the stage. She was in tears. She was there with a team of people, like nearly a whole table, or it might just have been that the table that she was with knew that she, had been chatting to her that evening, but they were on their feet. Everyone was whooping. It was just so lovely. She couldn't believe that she had won that award, and it was just the nicest reaction probably I felt, because obviously it's a nurse and I'm presenting the award, but honestly she genuinely, it was just lovely, a lovely thing to be part of, so I feel really fortunate about that.
Oh bless, that's really good.
Yeah.
How lovely.
So that was that, and then I spent time just chatting to people at BSAVA. It's funny how like you just bump into people now. The more that you spend in this time in this role, the more you recognize people, and in particular I think because we've done that CMA webinar the week before, or a few days no, it was that week, sorry, earlier that week.
That week,
because the people from Closer Still Media, sorry, who were behind the scenes, a couple of them were there, and so came up and we were chatting as well. So yeah, it was really lovely. And so yeah, and then I came home. Had one day at home.
One day.
At home, and then on the Monday, so at the moment we're reviewing the Practice Standards Awards, and just every 5 years it gets a full review, looking at all the modules, updating stuff, changing stuff, because obviously that it needs to happen. And so I'm part of 2 different working groups with that, 2 different areas that we're inputting as nurses, which is brilliant. And so that was on that Monday, which is quite a long period of time. And then there's follow-up meetings. I think we've actually got an in-person one on the 30th of April, which will be lovely because I've been part of the Practice Standard Working Group for 2 years and never met any of these. Sorry, that's not true. I've met Anna Judson and Melinda, but other people within the group who I wouldn't meet necessarily in my pres role. I'm going to actually get to meet them face to face. I think we're going to have some food, and then we're going to
that'll be nice.
But this project is going to be ongoing for ages. I think we've got these meetings booked in. I feel like it's right up until November or December, so it's going to be a lot of work.
So quite busy,
which is good. And then on the 26th of March, just to finish it off for that month, we had a VNAM meeting. So just tying up loose ends of the resources that we're putting together. And I know we've talked about VNAM before, but obviously VNAM is your VNAM your way, where we want people to really talk about the veterinary nursing role in a bit more detail, talk about protect the title and what that means to clients and for us as individual nurses. And as I said earlier, I think it's really important that we get clients to understand from an animal welfare point of view. So there's a hint of tip there for you. And then as an association, we're putting together a toolkit whereby the resources on how you can put together different bits of information are there. So that's me. Just over half an hour, I think. Sorry, Kim.
And that was all in March. That's absolutely crazy. When we were just discussing everything that you'd done in March, we couldn't quite believe how much you'd done, and I think you've managed to wrap it up so well in 30 minutes because that's a lot, honestly. And you've done amazing work really on behalf of the vet nursing profession. You really have. So you should, that's incredible amount of work.
Oh, thank you.
Incredible, honestly.
Thank you.
So there was just a few other little updates as well on some of the task and finish groups. Lyndsay did mention these in her last podcast. She did do a wonderful shout out to them all. So the social media group is going really well. We've had competitions recently, and we have announced our February winner, which you can check out on the BVNA Facebook page. So with that in mind, we've now opened up our next competition for for April rather. I apologise. And we are looking for pictures of exotic nursing, rehabilitation, and any kind of general nursing that you do in practice, or working as a vet nurse, or anything you can sort of think of, just capture it on camera. And you get to win a day pass to BVNA Congress. So that's exciting. Yeah. That's really exciting. So you can come and join us there and have fun alongside us. That'll be because it'll be really wonderful to see you there.
Yeah.
And then we have the welfare of pets in school. We have our final live discussion panel, which will be held on Wednesday, the 24th of April. And as we've explained before, that's an educational resource for teachers and parents. So not necessarily for the children. It's more to provide the resources that teachers need if they're considering getting a pet for school, or if they've already got pets in school. So it is a fab resource to check out if you haven't already checked it out. And then, yeah, I think that's everything, isn't it, Lyndsay?
I was just going to give a quick update on the on the VCA group. So
yes.
Emma Foreman, who chairs that, has just had updated me just to let me know that the VCA group has a survey that's ready to be released. And that there'll be a live panel discussion in the next month or so leading up to the VCA stream at Congress. And we think that'll tie in quite nicely with Protect the Title. Because obviously we're supporting those people who are working in practice as VCAs, but also might have element of nursing in their title. And so using that, like we've talked about before, as a way of, like I said, it's a bigger picture thing, but they might not necessarily realise, and that title's been given to them by their practice, but someone else might perceive that as a veterinary nurse. But great stuff happening there. The mental health toolkit is ticking along as well. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with that. So that's really, really, really quite exciting. And I was just looking to see whether, I think that might have been the only updates that we've had. You've done the Smalley group already. I was just looking for the clinical coach one, but that's fine. I think that might be on an email somewhere, so I'll have to update about that next time. But yeah, so I think that's everything. There's a whole load of stuff going on all the time. When you summarize it in like 2 or 3 lines like that, it seems like it doesn't seem as big a project, but these projects are huge. And some of the council members are split between multiple different task and finish groups, so there's a lot that people are working on. It's a lot of time, and then we, in the run up to our next council meeting, which is the beginning of May, or second weekend of May, so there'll be things that people are sort of putting together to bring to that council meeting, ideas and suggestions as well. So it's busy.
Always busy, always, aren't we, at the BVNA? We're doing loads to sort of Protect the Title, animal welfare, education. We're doing all sorts, aren't we? It's amazing.
Very exciting times.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Lyndsay, for that update. I know it was a rapid update, but it just shows how busy you've been, doesn't it? So yeah, it's really important that we understand all the projects that you've been doing. We will be having some more podcasts coming up later on in the year, so do be sure to look out for those. But yeah, thank you very much for now.
Thank you. And also, just to add to the end of it as well, I know I said this last time as well, but I don't take for granted the role that I have. I feel very, very fortunate that I have been allowed to have this position, and that's through membership voting me onto council in the first place, and allowing me to be part of this be part of my journey as well. So I don't take it lightly, and it is on behalf of others. So I just feel really thankful that I've been given this opportunity to have this voice, to be able to carry that forward for our members. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. It really will help us out a lot. To check out what's on, visit our website bvna.co.uk, where you will find a list of all the upcoming events available. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Bye for now.